All right, so now you have computed your very first neuron activation based on an input vector. Now, obviously, the output here was kind of random because it depended on the weights and is not necessarily the output that we expect. We want to have a kind of supervised learning, meaning we have our training samples, they are labeled, so we know the expected output. And when we do this initial calculation, the perceptron might not compute the exact output that we expect. So now here we want to learn in the sense of machine learning. We want to be able to change the weights of the perceptron so that over time it learns the correct weights. And this is a form of supervised learning. The way it works is we look at each of the training samples one by one. We do this activation, what you just calculated on the worksheet. And then we check by comparing the computed output versus the manually labeled output. So if the output is correct, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change any of the weights because it calculated the right output. But if the output is not what we expect, then we have to change the weights. And here there is an important idea in these neural networks. We don't change all the weights, we only change the ones that were activated, meaning they had an input different from 0. So now, how can we change the weight? Basically, what we do is we look at how much did each of these input weights contribute to the error. So the important thing is that we look at the difference between labeled and predicted output. Labeled is from the training data, predicted is what we just computed. And this we multiply with the input value. We also multiply it with a so-called learning rate. This indicates how big the change is going to be. And this is the value that we're going to adjust the weight by. So the new weight, the updated weight, is the old weight plus learning rate times difference times input weight. And again, you can see if the input was 0 for a given input, then we are not going to change the weight associated with the input. So we are going to do this one by one for each input sample. And in neural network terminology, this is called an epoch. If you listen to other videos, be mindful that there's a difference between American and British English. British English, what I usually say is an epoch, and American English, you hear an epic, but it's the same thing. So, time to do some calculation. On the next task on the worksheet, we're going to do this for trying to learn a function, and you'll see the weights, the values that you get from the initial weights aren't always correct, so you're going to have to update them. So have fun with that, and I'll see you back after you're finished.